Welcome to the Catalina series, a little trip that we did out to explore some different water far down the coast towards the south in Southern California. We wanted to dedicate the first video over to a very special fish. We named him Gary the Gariboldi. Maybe not the most unique name, but this fish was zesty and full of personality. This is Gary coming in and trying to scare away the camera. Problem with Gary is that he doesn't understand personal space at all. So he'll swim in and close the distance well beyond the range of what the camera's supposed to focus in. And the way we found him was Marie was down there. We were looking for lobster at the time. And unfortunately, Marie ended up disrespecting Gary right in this clip here. She takes a swipe as she paddles through right over top of him, and he doesn't spook. Gary ends up deciding that she just done him dirty, so he's going to follow and defend his rock. We found out that Garibaldis will cultivate their little patch of red algae, which is what he's right over top of, on their specific territory, and they'll defend it from everything. And they'll get extra aggressive if it's mating season, which I do not believe it was. But Gary was not having any of that, so he came off the rock, came up to the surface where we were hanging out, and decided to tell us a piece of his mind. Not all of them were this angry. You'll see some kind of swim down below in other shots. It's only really been Gary that is out here for blood. He's out here to tell us to get out of here, that it's his territory, his land, and we don't have any right to hang out in his zone. But I will say he's the cutest little guy. He ended up basically tailing us the whole time when we were in this area. Everything we did, he ended up getting a little upset with, and he would constantly come in, try and chase us off from his little area. You can see there's another Garibaldi back there, and that one was super relaxed, but Gary's not relaxed. Gary's a fighter. And I will note, there's no food for him here. This is just him being angry at us, hanging out on the surface, trying to tell us to go away. I've never had a fish come up from all the way from the bottom after I dove down, follow me up, and then keep posturing with me on the surface to try to get me to go away. As he finally makes his exit, realizing he probably won the fight, we decide to start throwing him some things to see what he thinks of, for example, a mesh bag. Empty, no lobster, but a mesh bag nonetheless. Gary was not pleased with what we added into his front yard. So Gary decides to take this trash out. He ends up biting the mesh bag and trying to swim it out of his little turf. I've never seen a fish come in and here's an instant replay. Him trying to just go, rah! Get it out of here. It was a little too heavy for him, but he did his best. He moved it over a little bit. And as we kind of came down and dove down there, Gary would meet us. And in this case, he was trying to get between me and the camera. And I said, no, you're trying to be getting filmed here, not swimming towards my face. So eventually got the shot lined up, and curiosity in me said, what if I just leave the camera down here with Gary? What would Gary do with an annoying looking orange camera apparatus down here? So what I ended up doing is sticking it down here in the rocks and leaving it to get a little bit of more Gary footage. I'll speed us up a little bit. You can see kind of the pulsating waves and Gary milling about. And here we have the missus toroing the bull forward with the cape. He's got quite a look to him, Gary. Strong front facial features. This guy's eyes mostly on the sides, but you know what? When he's swimming dead on you, it looks like he could be a predator. With the front facing eyes. So he decided to start dropping some more things. So I dropped a little pebble. Gary seemed interested. And then I followed up with the mesh bag again. See what he thought. He was not impressed. A bunch of small kelp surfbirds showed up and they were checking it out. And they were curious, but all I can say is Gary must have just been angry. Here I go down, and here goes Gary, defending his patch. And he ended up just squaring up with me on the other side of the camera behind his boulder. Can't be captured, but Gary did bite the camera a couple times. We have a little orange lanyard on it, and he wasn't happy with that lanyard. Anything of color around here is not meant to be there. You see Maria getting followed by Gary. He's a little attack dog. I go down. Gary goes over to me. Kind of tough to get the camera perfectly lined up with where Gary is and where we are, but you know what? It's part of being in the ocean. And Gary's constantly milling around the camera. Especially milling around us. I ended up finally pulling up the camera and giving Gary his space back. And I figure at this point, I was like, maybe I should try feeding Gary. So I ended up getting some shells and go full caveman mode, trying to snap this shell on the bottom of this rock. Turns out my palm is not a good enough tool for smacking it. So I end up equipping this rock. And you can just see Gary's just sitting there like a puppy, watching what I'm doing. Very curious. What is strange blue man up to? Well, I can tell Gary's up to. He's here to scare all the other Garibaldis out because it's his area. And me creating the commotion now is bringing other Garibaldis in, and Gary can't have any of that. So, off Gary goes, scaring all the other Garibaldis out of the zone. It's nice to see that we have the same, he has the same opinion about other Garibaldis as he does with us, which is that this rock in this area belongs to Gary, and nobody else is allowed. I return my rock down there, and Gary checks it out. And we end up even realizing that if we just wiggle our fins at him, he'll come up and just stare at us. I've never had a fish be this fearless. Usually when they see a big fin or something move, then they're kind of scared. But this Gariboldi, he's here to fight. We decorate his front yard with another wrecked car, essentially. And finally, we take all the garbage out and clean up Gary's patch and leave the poor little guy alone. And with that, we have the conclusion of Gary the Gariboldi, King of the Rock.